Bangladesh Agricultural University in 2010. Soon after graduation, he started working as a young professional in one of the leading NGOs of Bangladesh known as BRAC, where Dr. Mahabub Hussain is the former director. In 2013, he was promoted as Senior Field Coordinator, which, while he was coordinating some agricultural developmental projects in southern part of Bangladesh, he applied for Asian Development Scholarship, which was jointly offered by IRI and UPLB. For him, IRI is a great place for doing research and learning. It also provides the opportunity to work with renowned scientists. So if you have worked with him, you are famous. So once selected, he immediately grabbed the opportunity and accepted the scholarship to pursue his MS degree in agricultural economics at UPLB. Today, he will present a study that identified the diversification of income sources occurring among the rural households of Bangladesh. I am pleased to present to you the future director of BRAC.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Eleni. I'm going to present some parts of my thesis. So, Maganda Hapon, right? Okay, so this is my presentation outline. I will be talking about the background of the study, study objectives, conceptual framework, methodology, research and results and discussions, and few take-home messages. So, looking at the background of the study, actually in rural areas of Bangladesh, the household incomes are coming from different sources. Everybody, can say that, but actually there is not enough evidence on that, and nobody. So far, I didn't found any study that have measured the income diversifications or livelihoods diversification in rural areas of Bangladesh. So, one of the project of ED, Village Dynamics in South Asia, that is working in 12 villages of Bangladesh. They are collecting panel data since 2009, and they are collecting income and employment data also. So I use their data to do my thesis, and this is an output of that project. So among the most common literature on rural livelihood diversifications, the work of Frank Ellis is very common, and I don't know he or she. He he defined livelihood diversification as the process by which rural households construct an increasingly diverse portfolio of activities and assets in order to survive and to improve their living standard. So that was his definition. So let's see my study objectives. The general objectives is to assess the diversifications, and specifically to determine, to identify the dominant patterns of rural livelihoods and to determine the factors that affect that diversification process. So looking at the conceptual framework, I got this idea of conceptual framework from the Sustainable Livelihood Development Framework that was developed by University of Sussex in 1997 and 8. So they actually talk about 5 basics capital that every society has. These are natural, social, human, physical and financial capital. Those capital can directly affect the livelihood diversification, or it may go through institutional policies, and again it can affect the livelihood diversification, or either it may go through market and infrastructure, and it can affect the livelihood diversification. But the ultimate goal of doing all these things is to increase the household welfare. In my thesis, I didn't go to measure this household welfare. Rather, I confined up to this level only. So, to measure the welfare, it can be another study. Okay, methodology. Maybe you already know that VDSA project working in 12 villages. So I covered all these 12 villages, which are taken from 11 districts, and also that cover the 6 divisions. In total, there are 7 divisions in Bangladesh. So only one hilly area of the Bangladesh, we didn't consider because there is not much enough rice cultivated. For the purpose of analysis, I again classified the study villages into 4 regions, and you can see here this region. This is northern part of Bangladesh. This is middle region. This is southeastern, and this is western region. A multi-stage random sampling technique was used to identify the households, and 45 households are initially selected from each villages, but finally I used 500 households out of 540 because some households data were incomplete. And primary data are collected through face-to-face interview by using semi-structured pre-tested questionnaire. For analytical tools, mostly descriptive analysis are used, like summary statistics, frequency table, percentage. Then for testing the significance, mostly ANOVA tests are done, then some t-test also. And to get the income from different income sources, because this study is mainly about the household income, so I used the net income. When I consider the different crop, I use this formula. Net income was calculated by deducting the total cost from total revenue. It's a very simple equation. So this is the index I used to quantify the diversifications. So this is called Simpson Diversification Index. This index was used by some other researchers, mostly in Africa and India. They also use this index to quantify, to measure the livelihood diversifications. So this is the equations. Here N is the total number of income sources, and PI is the income proportion of the ith income sources. The value of SDI ranges between 0 and 1. If the value of SDI is close to 1, it means the household is highly diversified or more diversified. If value is close to 0, it's less diversified. So based on that SDI values, I again made 5 groups of the level of diversifications. These are no diversifications and low, medium, high, and very high. So this is the range of SDI. And again, Bangladesh is a very small country, and we have huge population, so land is always an important factor. So we classified all the households according to operating land holdings into 4 groups. I will show you later why I made these classifications. So this is the land range, operating land range. And the classifications are like functionally landless, small, medium, and large farmer. So to find the determinants of livelihood diversification, I use Tobit regression model. So these are the independent variables used in the model. So I'm not going to read all these things. If you have some questions later, you can ask me. I will explain. So this is the Tobit regressions I use for the to find the determinants. So this is the SDI value as a dependent variable, and these are the independent variables. So I think this is very simple. So results and discussions. The first table shows the socioeconomic and demographic characteristics of the respondents. Gender is always an important topic in Bangladesh, like rural. As it was the study was conducted in rural areas. It's Muslim country, Muslim dominated country, so obviously like 85% households are headed by male, while only 15% are headed by female. And those 15% actually included like the household head are not in the house. They are maybe in abroad doing some job, other town. That's why the female member working as a household head. If you look at that age group, this 15 to 64, most of the household members are in these groups. So which actually you can easily visualize that there are more economically active people still in the rural areas of Bangladesh. However, the dependency ratio is around 57%, which is like almost same with the national dependency ratio. Household size, I calculated, it is 5.33, and then if you look at the farm size, average farm size is only 0.45 hectares. Actually, this much land is not enough to have enough income for this household size for a year. That's why how they should go for diversifications rather. They should go out of farming. Farming is there, but they are going some other non-farm activities. Well, most of the household has the excess of credit and savings also is around 50%. Now that from the available income sources, like from the study we found almost 70 different occupations. So I categorized those income sources into 9. So this is rice crop, the first one, non-rice crops, non-crop agriculture, agricultural laborer, non-agricultural laborer, business and caste occupations, salaried job and services, remittance and transfer payment. If you have some questions, you can ask later. So because I didn't include the description of those income sources. However, this 9 category of income sources again regroup as 3. This is most commonly known, like farm income, off-farm income, and non-farm income. So later I will show the share of each income sources, how much they are getting from each sources. So this table, after getting the income from all the sources, I summarize in this table. So look at this figure. Yearly, they have, on an average, every household's yearly income is around 2,400 US dollar. So this is net income. But however, this is not actually, this is like, compared to the national income, this is little higher. So, in Bangladesh, the national income is much lower than, the household national income is much lower than this. Now, but for my study, the important thing is the share. Look here, it's like 29% of total income is coming from remittances. So when I calculated remittances, we considered 3 types of remittances. Household member who are sending money from abroad, as like they are working overseas, foreign workers, so they are sending money. That is remittances. Again, some household member also working in town or city, but they are still with the family. They are still household member, but they are staying outside the family, and then they are like every month they are sending money. So that is also considered as remittance. The second highest sources is business and caste occupations, and look at here, rice is the third highest sources of income. It contributes 16% of total household income. Then I try to, one of the objective is to find the dominant patterns of rural livelihoods. So you can see from these tables, I try to show into 4 regions, according to 4 regions. In each regions, the dominant patterns, like for northern regions and middle regions, it is, in these 2 regions, like if you see here, rice, then this is business, these 2, and this 2 is remittance. So these 3 sources of incomes have almost 70% of total income. So we can say that in northern region and middle region, these 3 sources of income are dominating. So these are the dominant patterns of income. But for southern and southeastern and western region, it's quite different. Here is remittance is much, like almost 50% they are covering from remittance, but the other is like business and caste occupation, but here it is non-crop agriculture. And for western regions, it is almost equal from its sources, like non-rice crops, this is non-agricultural laborer, business and caste occupation, and this is remittances. So one of the objective was to find the regional variations of dominant patterns of income. That's why I showed this graph. Looking at the farm, off-farm, and non-farm income sources, you can see that farm income is only contributing 34%, whereas non-farm income is contributing about 64%. So which clearly says that households are really going towards the non-farm sources of income for their livelihoods. This is just the representation of this graph. So using that index, I summarized that index value into the level of diversifications, and you can see that most of the households have, 38% of households have high level of diversification, whereas 32%, almost 32%, have medium level of diversification. However, 6% have no diversifications, meaning these 6% households are getting their income from only one sources. So that, like, if they have rice crop only, they don't go for anything else. They are just getting their income from rice crop. To see the regional distribution of diversification, you can see the value of average value of SDI according to each regions, and it is the highest. Southeastern regions have the highest level of diversification, whereas middle regions have lowest, but the average is still 0.42, which range between medium level actually. So on an average, they have medium level of diversifications, in each household. But if we look at the difference, there are still some differences, though it seems very close, but the F test was significant. Sorry I didn't put that value. And then I again try to show the distribution of households into different level of diversifications, and you can see that households from all four regions mostly have medium and high level, whereas these are these are comparatively small numbers compared to medium and high level. So most of the I try to conclude that most of the households from all four regions have diversified their livelihoods to medium and high level. This graph actually, to make it more visual, to make it more clear, that this is high, and this green and blue, right? This green and blue is like mostly dominated here. I have some. Okay, I told you that I classified all the 500 households into four groups according to the operating land size. So here you can see that the functionally landless households have the lowest amount of HDI value, average HDI value, whereas small and medium have almost same, and large have 0.40. So the implication is that small and large households have lower level of diversification compared to functional landless and large household have lower level of diversification compared to small and medium. You can ask me why. This is again the distribution of household into different level of diversification across the land category, and you can see that small and medium, those groups have highest percentage of high level of diversification, whereas the large households, they have only they have highest percentage of diversification only up to medium level. Okay. Now comes to the factor affecting rural livelihood diversification. So before doing the Tobit regression, I test the data for multicollinearity, and it seems that landman ratio have highly correlated with farm size, so I omitted one variable. Then I did VIF analysis, and none of the VIF is above 10, so this is rule of thumb that if it is below 10, we can say that there is no more multicollinearity problem. Then I had to do the test for checking out heteroscedasticity. So I did like auxiliary regressions, and then Bruce Spriggan and Cook-Weisberg test, and both the tests suggest that it is significant, so we should accept the null hypothesis of homoscedasticity. That means we should reject the null hypothesis. So there are heteroscedasticity problems in the data. So if this problem is there, I really need to remove this problem. So I tried in different ways. I looked for many literatures, but for Tobit regressions model, the only solution I found from the book of Green that if there is some problem of heteroscedasticity in the data, to run the Tobit model, one can directly deal with by using Tobit multiplicative heteroscedasticity model. This is slightly different from the Tobit model, but the explanation and the implication is same, but the model is slightly different. So you need to use Stata 12 because they only included this command from Stata 12 and upper version. So in Stata 12 you can use Tobit head m, their command, so you will get this Tobit multiplicative heteroscedasticity regression. Once you use this multiplicative heteroscedasticity, which automatically removes the heteroscedasticity problem, so there is no more heteroscedasticity problem. So these are my very significant variables with blue, green, and red. I put it red because this is education, but still negative. I'm not sure why. I don't know why the education have negative effects on diversification. That's why I put it on red mark. So if you look at gender, it is positive and highly significant. Gender, if the household is headed by a male, it is a dummy variable. So if the household is headed by male, then the household is more likely to have diversified than the household compared to household who is headed by female. And the household size, this is the number of household members in a family. So higher number of family members obviously leads them to go for more income sources. So it has logical explanation that if the number of household members is higher, then the diversification is also high. Look at here, migrants is negatively related with the diversification, which means that if the household have more migrant family members, they are just not doing anything else, receiving money from abroad. Their family, like father is working in some countries in Middle East, so they are sending money. Okay, I don't need to do anything. So they are not going for diversification. They are just relying the one sources of income. That's why it is negative. And development program participants is positive and significant. Household assets is negative and significant. Why it is negative? Household assets. Those household assets mostly in rural areas, mostly farm assets. So these are actually large farmer or large household. Like they have more assets, meaning they are going for the farm activities only. They don't really go for non-farm activities. That's why maybe this is negative. So dependency ratio is negative. Obviously, if there are more dependent family member in your house, the level of diversification would be reduced. And then education, I told you already. Amount of credit and amount of savings, both are significant, but credit have positive effect, savings have negative effect. So, okay, if the household have more credit, they can use those money for generating more income or to invest in new enterprise, or new business. But if the household have more savings, the implication is that more savings, less investment, less income. So negative. And then look at the regional dummy. I use those. I showed that there are 4 regions, so I use 3 dummies, and the third one is Southeast region. This is significant at 5% level and positive. So Southeastern regions have, compared to other regions, have higher level of diversification, and that is already shown in my descriptive analysis. And in here the land classification dummy 1, 2, 3, both are significant, but this one, first one, this is landless group, so they have negative compared to the large group. And small and medium, these two, small and medium, they have positive coefficient, which means they have higher level of diversification compared to large household, because large household is like my Czech households. This is the marginal effect of the Tobit regression model. So we can use these values to interpret this coefficient, same as almost like OLS regression. So I have this take-home messages. Rural livelihoods in Bangladesh are diversifying their livelihoods mostly at medium level. Southeastern regions has highest livelihood diversification while middle regions have the lowest. Small and medium landholding households have higher level of livelihood diversification compared to landless and large landholding households. And non-farm income contributes more in total household income. So as the farm size is really small, so my recommendation would be to encourage to expand the non-farming employment opportunities more. And as functionally landless found to be very low level of diversification, so they should be given more attention to increase their income and to diversify their income also. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Tanvir. Let's now open for questions.
What do you mean by functionally landless? Because your title is rice-based farm household. So I assume all the samples are rice-based farm household.
That category actually I followed Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics. So they use that term functionally landless, but still they have 0.2 hectare of lands, but they are considered as functionally landless. So that term actually used in Bangladesh by the National Bureau of Statistics.
Your average is 0.4. So why we don't consider 0.2 as landless? It's just, maybe that's why you're here. 0.45?
Yes, the average land holdings is 0.45. Yeah, average is 0.45, but that classifications are actually not only I followed, but most of the studies on farm level studies, they follow the same the land
What
category.
is your small? The area of small?
Small is 0.21 to 0.8 hectare. Because if someone really have this much land, they are considered large, because land is really very scarce in Bangladesh. So I have this amount of, my father had this amount of land, so we are small farmer. Yes, Kamal.
Can you go back to the formula of SDI?
Yes.
Okay, can you give us an example on how
Yes.
to compute the SDI?
Okay. So this SDI value considered both number of income sources and the share from each income sources. Some studies they only consider the number of income source for measuring the diversification. But if you just consider the number, say I have two sources of income. One is farming, one is business. I'm getting 99% from my income from farming and 1% from business. But I have two. But this household have 50% from farming, 50% from business. But if we just consider the number, both have same level of diversification. But if we consider this formula, they will consider, PI that is the income share. So meaning this household will have much higher level of diversification considered to, compared to this. That's why this is, I think one of the good index to use.
Question.
Yes.
First, I'd like to congratulate you. You have presented it very well and very good. My question is, I know that you're not doing a study on welfare, but when you measure diversification, aren't you measuring more the risk or the variability of income from diversification and not the mean. And so that's the first one. Could you comment on that? And then the second is, could it be, as a follow-up, could it be the reason why bigger farmers do not diversify? Because they get better income or less risky income from specialization.
No, income diversification is considered as one of the tool to minimize the risk of risk to shock or seasonality or income risk. So that's why, like when the farmer is small or the household is poor, they go for many different income sources because they feel themselves not secure to their income. So they try to expand their income sources. But the other group, the large group, they try to augment their income by specializations. Actually, I discussed those things in my thesis clearly because there are two groups. One really want to diversify just to minimize the risk of income. Another group, they actually try to like expand their income. They really don't go for diversification. That's why the large household group, large landholding groups have lower level of diversifications compared to small and medium. So again, large landholding groups have lower level of diversification compared to small and medium. But landless, that functionally landless group supposed to go for higher level of diversification, but they cannot go because they are lacking of some capitals. So they need to push up to increase their income.
So with that, what would be the more important indicator or what would be the more important factor to increase welfare or to better development? Would it be the need increasing, of specialization, need increasing effect on income of specialization, or the risk reducing effect of diversification? Because I think there's a trade-off.
Actually, if we look at the share of large farmer, is only 9%, and the picture is same throughout the country. So that group, the big farmer or big house, large richer household, the number is very like 10%. So we should suggest to go to risk minimizing. So they will diversify their income by minimizing risk, because these groups are like 90% households are in that group. They can go for risk minimizing strategy. But those 10%, okay, we can give them another suggestions. Okay, they have enough money to survive. They pretend themselves that they are safe against vulnerability. So they can they can go for augmentation of their income.
So thank you very much for the presentation and congratulations on your recent accomplishments. And just to follow with what Zany said, I think that she's absolutely right. I think that adds a lot to the storyline. If you include risk, I think it's something that should be discussed if you proceed with a journal publication, for example. But my question is in regards to if you looked at income classes as well as landholding size to see if there was a differentiation among income classes and how their RDI changed.
I didn't look at that. I just considered regional differences and the land category, land classifications. So yeah, it can be done like based on the total household income, we can make another category, something like that. Yeah, that can be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
But for my thesis, I did not do that actually.
Questions?
I understand that you just used 1 year of UTSA data.
Yes, the cross section data only.
Have you checked if there are other sources who use the UTSA, the older version, and see how how it changed, the diversification? Are they diversifying more now than before? Because that's something that you can look at with this different time series.
It, actually, I read one book by Dr. Hussain, the insight, rural economy of Bangladesh, insights from rural areas. So he actually used the previous data from 1987 and 1992, again 2000, 2000 up to 2007, I think. So and in that study he tried to show the differences from time to time, how income and income sources are changing from time to time. But I only considered 1 year just to find the diversification in a particular year. So I really did not compare my results with the previous studies results. But those studies are already there.
I just think that it would be interesting to see
To-
how the households have changed across time, because it's possible.
Yeah, it is possible to do that. Just to make my thesis simple, because they ask not to. Yeah, I can do that later. I mean, my committee member always ask me, just be focused on your title. No need to do anything. Like Bandari also telling me that MSc students, they always try to catch everything. They try to put everything in their thesis. But no need, just go for one thing, one way.
Questions? No more questions? Let us all thank Anvir and bid farewell. You'll be leaving Wednesday, right?
Thursday.
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 Thank you.